Yesterday, I did a story about this reporter right here, Winnie Dortch, and I got the story wrong. She had been involved in a DV situation, an attempted unaliving, and the man who had the pew pew took himself out. But this woman is still alive. She is just in serious condition. So here is the story. Winnie Dortch, a reporter at WOIO TV in Cleveland, has serious injuries from the Monday morning shooting, and a man was also pronounced unalived at the scene. She was rushed to the hospital and underwent surgery late Monday morning. Her family said it went well. This is a time where I am perfectly fine with the fact that I got it wrong. This woman is still alive. She's just in serious condition. Police say they recovered a gun at the scene and continue to investigate the circumstances of the shooting and the nature of their relationship, but they say they were familiar with each other. A statement from her news organization says this morning, our friend and colleague, Winnie Dortch, was a victim of a brutal DV attack. She was immediately rushed to Metro Health Medical Center and underwent surgery for her injuries. Our prayers are with her, her young daughter, and many other victims of DV in our community. Oh my gosh, like I said, this is one time I am perfectly fine. I'm perfectly fine when I get things wrong anyway, but I'm so happy that I was wrong in this instance. And this woman is is in serious condition and she's healing. I did check to see if there was any updated information, and so far I have not seen anything. But when we get the good news that she is up and out, I will definitely be making a follow-up video. Now I'm going to segue to this Axios article. TikTok users rely on content creators for the news. I thought that this was interesting, especially since I do actually report on news articles. It says types of TikTok accounts followed by U.S. adults. Mid-tier individual influencers or creators, 46%. 46% is where people are finding their news. And I think I'm a mid-tier individual influencer. Small accounts, 38%. And then the mega influencers, celebrities, brand officials, they start to get the lower numbers. So here is the rest of the breakdown on where people are getting their news. More Americans are flocking to TikTok for news and information, but they aren't necessarily following media organizations or journalists on the platform, according to a new report from the Pew Research Center. Why it matters. They are relying on creators, entertainers, and influencers to deliver the news, even as mis- and disinformation campaigns continue. State of play. Nearly half of Americans say they get their news from social media platforms. Among those who use TikTok, 52% regularly get news there, up from 22% in 2020. About 4 in 10 Americans between the ages of 18 to 24 discover news from the app. Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitch, and Nextdoor are also gaining traction as news sources. By the numbers, given the personalized nature of the TikTok algorithm, Pew examined 227,946 accounts to better understand the following habits of U.S. adults across the platform. The report found that close to half of users follow mid-tier influencers or creators, while 38% follow smaller accounts like friends or family members, and 2% follow celebrities, brand accounts, and spokespeople. Less than 1% say they follow journalists or media entities on the platform. Between the lines, creators often reference mainstream media coverage or news stories in their content, so traditional news does reach TikTok users even if they aren't following specific journalists or publication. What they are saying. To the extent that people are getting news about politics or current events on TikTok, it is coming from people who don't necessarily look like traditional journalists and is probably interspersed with a lot of very non traditional content like skits, funny dances, or promotional content, says Aaron Smith, managing director of Pew Research Center's Data Labs. It speaks to this broader notion that people's world news or politics comes as a side dish to their main course of gossipy entertainment news and the content of the creator that happens to be interested in. Obviously, the legacy media outlets still have millions of followers on the apps. Okay, it says what to watch. Social media remains a hotbed for the spread of mis and disinformation, with many looking to local and legacy news in times of crisis. Now, what I have seen is, the mainstream media, they're going to give you what they want to give you, and they are tailored specifically for their advertisers or whoever is paying their bills. What I love about being able to push out news is that I am getting news from all over the place, and I'm not restricted by advertisers or whatever, and I'm reporting on things that might not get seen because Black women, other women of color, um, you know, Black people in general, women's issues in general are not pushed the same way. So that's the cool thing about finding your mid tier content creators. You get to see that news that is tailored for your taste that the mainstream media might not be pushing. So I thought that this was a really cool article from Axios. Where do you get your news from? Let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like, comment, and share. One of the results of the forced birther laws in Texas will be the brain drain and the exodus of women and girls avoiding this state. So, this is an article out of the Texas Tribune. Texas abortion laws are straining the OBGYN workforce, a new study says. More doctors are considering leaving or retiring early, while fewer medical students are applying to the OBGYN residencies in Texas. Texas's new abortion laws are stressing that state's already beleaguered OBGYN workforce and threatening the pipeline of new doctors that would help provide relief, a new survey shows. More than 70% of practicing OBGYNs in Texas feel the near total ban has negatively impacted their work, prohibiting them from providing high quality, evidence based care for their patients, according to survey results released Tuesday. 1 in 5 have considered leaving Texas, and 13% are planning to retire early as a result of the new restrictions. Meanwhile, a majority of OBGYN medical residents say they're considering considering the new abortion laws when deciding whether to stay in Texas after their training concludes. Manit Health, a healthcare consulting firm, surveyed all Texas-based members of the Professional Association, American College of Obstetrics and Gynecologists, and received responses from 450 practicing doctors and 47 medical residents. Dr. Todd Ivy, a Houston OBGYN and an officer with the Texas Division of ACOG, said the survey results raised concerns about the long-term impacts of these laws. The state is expecting a significant shortage of OBGYNs over the next decade, with some rural areas already unable to find the doctors they need. Like many of his peers, Ivy considered leaving, but decided to stay and provide the best care he could within the limits of the law. But he understands why a new doctor who hasn't yet built a practice or a family in Texas might choose to go somewhere else. Not having people coming up is going to impact women's health greatly. I just hope we don't get to the day where women can't get their pap smear screening, they can't get their breast cancer screening, they can't get prenatal care. Patients don't want to confuse doctor. In the summer of 2022, after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, Texas made it a crime punishable with up to life in prison to perform a abortion. There is a narrow exception to save the life of a pregnant woman, but dozens of women have come forward in the last 2 years saying they were denied medically necessary care because of the law. Forced birther groups and Republican lawmakers say it is clear when doctors can intervene to perform a termination. Doctors disagree, this survey shows. Almost 1/3 of OBGYNs in Texas do not have a clear understanding of the law and how it relates to their medical practice, and 60% are fearful of legal repercussions. Dr. Anitra Beasley, a Houston OBGYN, says she and other doctors bring the fear of criminalization into the room with the patient, even when they're treating a miscarriage or other pregnancy complications. It turns into something that's about me and my risk instead of being about the patient and their situation. In her role as a researcher with Resound Research for Reproductive Health, Beasley spends a lot of time digging into Texas termination restrictions, but even she remains uncertain about when exactly the law would allow her to intervene to perform a termination. The Texas Medical Board has offered some guidance on how a doctor should document a medically necessary termination, and the Texas Supreme Court has ruled that doctors need not wait until there is an imminent risk of harm to the patient. But beyond that, Beasley said, doctors, hospital administrators, and general counsels are navigating these high stakes legal questions on a case by case basis. If I'm confused, I can only imagine that other doctors are confused. Patients don't want to confuse doctor. Despite this confusion and fear, Beasley has decided to stick it out in Texas. She has a whole life in Texas, a family, a job. She loves her research work. And I've got patients here that depend on us to provide really excellent care. I think there's a lot of us who feel like we can't just abandon people. We just can't abandon the patients who need us the most. Beasley isn't alone. Most Texas OBGYNs say they haven't thought about leaving the state as a result of the laws, the survey shows. And those who have considered it, many said they were staying because of family or financial issues. But almost 15% of surveyed doctors said they were planning to retire early, which could accelerate the state's looming shortage of OBGYNs. By 2030, which is just around the corner, Texas is expected to have 15% fewer OBGYNs than is needed to keep up with the demand. Many rural areas are already beginning to feel the effects of these shortages. More than 45% of Texas counties are considered maternity care deserts, meaning there is no doctor to see during your pregnancy and nowhere to give birth. Texas ranks 50th among the states and the District of Columbia for women's health, according to the Commonwealth Fund, which measured healthcare quality, outcomes, coverage, access, and affordability. Maternal mortality increased in Texas in 2020 and 2021, the most recent data available before the state banned nearly all terminations, reversing several years of progress. Infant mortality is increasing faster than the national average, which research attribute to the termination restrictions. We all love to look at pregnancy through this romantic kind of view and that everything is gorgeous and perfect, Ivy said. The reality is it doesn't always work that way, and we have to deal with some very, very serious consequences. People who have less access to medical care, that is who is going to suffer, he said. The next generation of doctors. With this retirement wave approaching faster than anticipated, Texas will need to quickly train and retain young OBGYNs. Historically, the state has done a lot on this front. Texas trains more medical students than any other state other than New York, and more residents than any other state other than New York or California. About 65% of doctors who come to Texas for residency stay after their program ends, a better retention rate than the national average in recent years. The state has built new medical schools, expanded residency programs, and invested in physician loan repayment programs. But Texas may be undermining its own investment, said Dr. Atul Grover, executive director of the Association of American Medical Colleges Research and Action Institute. States that banned termination saw a 16% drop in applications to OBGYN residency programs this year, even as the number of applicants ticked up nationally. There were other changes to the residency application process that muddies the data a bit, but overall the trend is clear, Grover said. Medical students hoping to study OBGYN are shying away from states that have banned abortion. While some of the hesitation may be about the training they'll receive or the care they'll be able to provide, Grover said his group frequently hears another concern: the care these doctors can receive when they become patients. If you think about the ages of people who are graduating from med school, they're 27 to 35. They are very concerned about their ability to control their own health care or that of somebody close to them. Listen to this. Ivy was recently talking to a medical student who said, despite the good residency program in Texas for her chosen specialty, she was absolutely not considering staying. Texas is traditionally a great place to get your education, to get your training in medicine, and to practice medicine, he said. We've typically been a very physician friendly state. I think these new restrictive laws that have come in the last few years are really changing that for a lot of people. They don't see it in the same manner. So these people, these forced birthers, are going to impact their own people in ways that I don't know why they didn't think about this stuff, but the people who are not the elected officials better really understand that they are harming their own selves by voting Republican. I mean, if you are a woman and you think that you're going to need care of some sort and you live in rural somewhere far, far away from other places, y'all better get your brain together and vote for your own better interests. All right, y'all, join the conversation. Let me know what you think about this one. Don't forget to like, comment, and share.